Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another video. This time, Granblue Fantasy Relink. Character tier list in 2025. Now, this game has been out for about a year. Tier lists have not really been a thing since this game's release. So let's change that. Let's update everybody on who the best characters in this game are. Now, let me preface this by saying any character in this game is viable to clear endgame content. I'm just trying to explain, the different strength tiers of the characters. Unfortunately, this game is unbalanced with the way they design the characters. The developers clearly showed more attention and love to some characters than others. I don't know why, but that's just the way it is. So some characters are broken. They're just way too powerful. They make the game insanely easy for the player. Other characters are disadvantaged, I would say. They play at a disadvantage. And, you'll be doing everything you can, like maxing out your, gear, maxing out your sigils, perfecting the boss mechanics, like doing everything you can. But you'll still end up, doing less damage than the broken characters. So that's just this game. Love it or hate it, that's just how this game is. Now I'm gonna break this off. Unfortunately, I don't have every character built, as you can see in my party selection list. I do not have every character built. I have about 220 hours in this game, but I've read a lot, I've watched a lot, I've played a lot. I understand this game. Not every character in and out, but I've seen the characters. I know what they're capable of. So let's get into it. The tier list. This is basically the breakdown right here on the screen. You have the broken tier, which is Sandalphon, and others, which I'll explain. You have the above average, good DPS characters, Zeta and other characters. Then you have the average DPS characters, who are I'll classify as Gandagoza and others, who through no fault of their own, it's just how they were designed, they do less damage overall, or it's just harder for them to do consistent damage, and they're just end up being average. So someone who's mastered Gandagoza, for example, right? Someone who's mastered Gandagoza will never top the honors. At the end of the match, where you show honors who contributed most to the match, Gandagoza will never beat a Sandalphon in honors. It's just not gonna happen unless, like, a Sandalphon is new to the game and they just don't know how to play the character properly, or their character's not built properly. Yeah, I should state that if all characters have the same amount of investment in sigils, levels, weapons, and character playing experience, if all of those factors are equal, then the Gandagoza is just not as good as the Sandy or the Zeta. The Zeta doesn't have to try as hard, Anyway, so that's the average tier list. Then you have the low damage tier list, which is Fairy and other characters, which I'll get into. But basically, through their kit, they just unfortunately don't provide enough. Typically these low damage dealers do provide some utility and support, but in a game like this, in the end game, utility and support is very unnecessary, because at the end of the game it's kind of like one shots. You either die or you're alive if you make a mistake. So utility doesn't really do as much in this game, unfortunately. Especially in the end game. So it's just more about how much damage you could dish out as quickly as possible while staying alive. That's how you get the unbalanced, broken characters. Now why are characters... I don't really know how to fully utilize Sandalphon, but I'll just to show you the why, right? So the broken characters like Sandalphon, the other ones are Charlotta. Try and showcase to you guys on the screen. Are Io and Charlotta. Now, I mentioned this in another video, but basically, for some reason, the devs love chibi characters. You know, Charlotta has gotten so much attention and love from the devs. Like, she's broken, and you know, it's like, why is she broken? You know, Io is also broken, and it's like, I guess she's not a chibi character. She's just kind of short, but still, like, she's broken, and the developers, you know, made her powerful. Even though, you know, in the story, I don't think she's the strongest character. The same thing with Charlotte. I don't think she's the strongest character in the story, but she's broken. The other chibi character is Yodara. He's pretty good. He's in the top tier, you know, above average DPS category. But anyway, Charlotta, Io, and Sandy are broken. And why are they broken? Because basically they can have offense and defense almost at the same time without, you know, trying that hard. So, you know, the perfect example of this is Sandy's bar that he's building up here, so he can get his chromatic, you know, wings. You know, as you see, it's building up, and if I stop attacking for whatever reason, like if I'm getting hit by the boss, or like I'm worried about the boss killing me, his meter stays where it is. Gandagoza, for example, who I have in the average tier, if you stop hitting the boss, your meter will drain. For whatever reason, his meter will drain. So, you know, I guess they thought they would make him too broken if his meter stayed available even without hitting the enemy.
I have you by the power of one.
I don't know. But basically, Sandalphon doesn't have to work too hard to get his meter. And then when he, you know, so, you know, I used up all my abilities, right? Let us end this. Now I have more abilities.
You've met your match.
To damage the boss.
Judgment.
So, yeah, he's broken. Charlotta is broken in a similar way. Like I said, I can't fully showcase how she works. But basically, she spins around, you know, like a potato, and she can mix offense and defense at the same time. Io is, and you know, she has invincibility as a skill for herself, and it lasts a long time. So not only does she have a lot of iframes, but she has invincibility, high attack, you know, high damage. She's just broken. Just throw a bunch of high damage skills on her, and she just destroys bosses. So Sandy and Sandalphon and Charlotta are broken. Io is also broken in that she could just sit back, charge up her stargazers by, you know, however she combos those into quickly charging. She builds SBA like crazy. I would say she's the best SBA meter builder just by the nature of her attacks. And her attacks, you know, nuke so much damage off of the bosses. So it's like, what is her downside? You know, she stays far away from the enemy. She does a ton of damage. She builds SBA. So it's just, she's broken. Anyway, moving on. So we have the next tier, which is the top tier, like above average DPSs. So Zeta is one of those. The other characters I'd put in that, you know, above average DPS would be Yugen, Narmaya, Percival, Siegfried, Cagliostro, Yodarha, Vasaraga, Seofin, and Id. So most of the characters, most of the roster, you know, the ones I just named, they're all above average DPS. And why are they above average DPS? Let's just get into why. Like I said, I didn't master every character, but I can just...
You want a piece of this?
So like I said, in the end game, it's all about.
Infinite Wonder!
Oh, I don't have I have her on an AI build, but anyway.
Try to run away. You're dead!
Like her whole gameplay loop is staying in the air and looping these attacks,
Lights out!
and then you go for that attack at the end. But basically, like, she kind of mixes offense and defense together as well, because once she starts looping, she's mostly in the air. Once you master her, right? Like, I'm not like a master of her. I'm like okay with
Try
her.
to run our best! Come on!
So she can mix offense and defense. So to a degree, right? She doesn't have like invulnerability frames while she's up in the air, but she can dodge. You can dodge in the air, so that
Over
helps.
here.
So that's just an example of a higher tier DPS character. If you build Zeta, you'll be fine. You can clear all the content. You won't be topping the leaderboard unless, if a Sendalphon or a Charlotta or an IO is there, you won't be topping the leaderboard. At the end screen, but you will be doing good damage. So, in the same manner, that's just how Yugen works. He's a good DPS. He stays back. Does a lot of damage, and he can keep himself alive. It's not really an issue. Narmaya is the same. She does a lot of quick combos, and she does a lot of huge amounts of damage quickly. She also doesn't lose her. She has butterflies as her like unique skill or ability, and she doesn't lose the butterflies if she stops hitting the enemies. So she can just maintain her DPS at a high level. Another character is Percival. I've kind of started building him, but basically he likes to charge his ability called Slot, and it's very easy to just do a combo, charge your slot, do a skill, charge your slot, so he can maintain his DPS very easily. And he doesn't really have many defensive skills, or any. Maybe he has one, but he's just there to do damage, and he's a great AI character in that sense, where he can just consistently do damage, and he doesn't have to think too much about much else. He just keeps himself alive, do some damage. Siegfried is all about timing your combos, and he is a little harder to combo, but once you get it down, I guess it's not that difficult. And he can dodge through his combo, and it doesn't really affect him too much. I think if you mistime it still resets it, but it is what it is. He still does a consistent amount of damage, and it's high damage, so that's why he's another above average DPS. Cagliostro is similar to all of these characters, where she can maintain her DPS. She does a lot of quick hits. She has a lot of quick hitting spells, so she does her damage, and you just keep yourself alive, no problem. Yodarha, he actually has an invulnerability skill as well, but also he does a lot of quick hits. His skills are fast. He does a lot of consistent damage, so that's why he's in this tier as well. Vasaraga is kind of the opposite of all these characters, where he's actually very complicated to play. I have not mastered him at all. Basically, you're charging his triangle attack, which is his charge attack, and you're hitting for like millions of damage, but you have to stand still while you're performing his charge. So it's kind of difficult to play, but once you master him, he can do a ton of damage. So he's kind of unique in his playstyle, but he still consistently can do a lot of damage if you can master his playstyle. Seophon is one of the newer characters that was released, and this is what I'm saying. He's supposed to be, like, in terms of the lore, he's supposed to be one of the top, characters in this universe, but he's just only above average in terms of damage. He's pretty good, but he's not broken. I could switch to him, but I don't think it's necessary. I don't want to make this video too long. But basically, his combo string, once you learn it, isn't too difficult. It is pretty splashy, it's pretty fun. But he's not as strong as Charlotta, for example. Charlotta, for whatever reason, I don't mean to hate on Charlotta players. I'm probably going to build her eventually, but she's just broken for what I feel like no reason. Like, Seofun is supposed to be, in this universe, one of the strongest characters. And he is pretty strong, but if you have a top tier Seofun player and a top tier Charlotta player, the Charlotta player is just going to out DPS the Seofun for whatever reason. Devs, like, come on. Anyway, he's good. He's great. Build him if you like him. He will do great for you. And Id, he also is a good, DPS. I don't really know his playstyle. You kind of transform, but yeah, he's a good DPS. Now moving on into the average tier, right? Let's move on to the average tier. Let me explain.
I shall break them all!
Now, I love Gandagozo. I love his style. I love his voice lines. I love that he's just like punching, But like, I did that really terribly, by the way. Anyway, like, you have to time his attacks, right? Nope, sorry. Excuse me. Now look at his raging meter. I stopped attacking. Oh, well, there it goes. There goes his meter. And, like, he doesn't do much damage off of his normal attacks. You really want to use his,
My fists, they howl!
His raging fist is where he gets all of his damage. So it's like,
Unleash the beast!
so it's like, Io and Sandalphon and those top tier characters like that who have a meter, like, they don't have to work as hard as Gandagoza. And like, if he can cancel in his combo, which I haven't mastered yet, but he can cancel through it, but you still need to perform his combo. And like I just showed you, if you stop hitting, and you have to land your combo finisher to even get any raging meter, like, it's just so hard to play this guy. He does pretty good damage, like, once you get everything going. But with the mobile boss, like, how are you gonna do all this? How you gonna land all this? Like, you're supposed to do some air combo sometimes. That also works, but you have to land his combo finisher to even get any meter. So yeah, this is an example of why did the devs make him so complicated to play? Like, as opposed to one of the easier characters. Anyway, he's an average DPS character, like the others that I mentioned. The other average characters, I would say, are... did I even mention? I'm sorry, I don't think I mentioned it. So, the other average DPS characters are Catalina, Rackham, Lancelot, Vayne, and Tuyen is kind of, in between the low damage tier and the average damage tier. But basically, all these characters do decent damage, but their kits are just, more complicated than they need to be. I mean, okay, Rackham's kit is not that complicated, but he just does lower damage, unfortunately. So Catalina has a complicated kit, and she's one of my favorites. So I can show her to you guys.
Lead the way. Them out.
Now, Catalina has utility, so she does have that. She has this light wall, which is invulnerability, which you can provide to the whole team, which is cool.
Cut them down.
But she has this mechanic called Ares, where you have to build up the blue bar that's down there, and then you can wow, I just missed. You can combo with her and just like link skills, link your combo finisher attack.
Mercenaries. Fighting cold.
You just keep, you know, comboing in that manner.
I have you now. Take this.
But then, you know, if you stop, you can't block, you can't dodge. Then you lose your DPS. It's just, you know, unnecessarily complicated. So that's why she's an average
I have you now.
DPS character. So, you know, I stopped. Now my meter is gone. So yeah, she's unnecessarily complicated. So she's an average DPS. So, you know, someone that mastered Catalina is gonna work 3 times as hard as someone that mastered, you know, Charlotta. Or I'm sorry to keep ragging on Charlotta, but it's just crazy to me how much damage she does for such little effort. It's just the truth. So, you know, Catalina, I guess, is balanced, but she will never top the leaderboards unless, like, you're the best Catalina player in the world, and, you know, the other players are not that good. So that's an average character in this game. Now, I just took out Fairy. Let me bring her back. Now, she's part of the group of low damage characters. Like I said, she can still clear content. You just got to build her to the max, right? And, you know, like min-max her, right? And the other characters in this low damage tier are main character, you know, Digita. You can make an argument for him being in the average damage tier, but I just, you know, haven't mastered him, so you can make an argument for him in that. Rosetta does low damage, unfortunately. And is that it? Toyen is debatable. She provides a lot of utility with her status effects, which some bosses are immune to, some are not. So she does have a lot of utility, but her damage, her DPS is a little lower. But Fairy and who's I saying? Rosetta are definitely at the lowest, at, you know, the bottom rung. Unfortunately, Rackham is kind of close to there as well. And like I said, Toyen. Now let's just swap to her really quick. So, you know, she does have range, right? She has decent range, but her DPS, you know, is only decent when she has her pets out.
Watch your feet. Will you
And,
me?
you know, like, her skills don't do much damage.
Welcome to the show.
And, like, you know, unfortunately, like,
Get him!
her multipliers aren't that great. And then, you know, her best damaging skill, which is this onslaught thing, that means you just lost your pets again. And you do more damage when your pets are out. So, you know, you gotta bring out your pets again. So, you know, you have a lot of downtime for your DPS, right?
Come at me!
And apparently, like, her aerial barrage does more damage. But, you know, I haven't really mastered Fairy. But anyway, like, she just has low multipliers. Her kit is just, you know, she has to keep the pets out. And then she loses her pets, as you've seen. Like, if you're, like, taking damage or something, you want to get out of the way. Rosetta has a different mechanic with her plants. But basically, they have summons, I guess. And I guess to balance the summons, they gave them less damage. You know, it is what it is. You know, they're just at the lower end of the DPS, but there's not much they could do about that. They're decent characters. Like, I still believe Fairy builds her SBA at a decent clip. So if you give her uplift or stun, you know, she could at least provide utility in that way. Rosetta similarly can provide buffs to the team, so she has some utility. Maybe you could build her as an uplift character as well. So yeah, I mean, that's the character tier list in a nutshell. So, you know, you have the characters. Let me put the biggest culprit out here.
You are under my protection!
So you have the characters who don't have to work that hard for DPS that are broken. You have the characters that have a good kit, well-designed kit. They just don't have any broken mechanics. So they're good DPSs but not broken. So you have that tier, which Zeta's in. You have Gandagoza, Catalina, and those characters who they do decent damage, but their kit mechanics are unnecessarily complicated. So they just don't do as much damage as the other type of characters. Then you have the low damage tier characters who typically, they provide utility. Like the Tuyen provides status effects, Rosetta provides buffs, Fairy can provide buffs, but also SBA gain. So they provide some utility, they just don't do as much damage, unfortunately. So those are the characters in a nutshell. I hope you guys learned something. I hope this video was useful to you. It wasn't me just blathering on. And if you enjoy this kind of content, like the video, let me know in the comments. If you want to know something, if you play on PlayStation, let me know. I play this game regularly now. It's still fun for me. So yeah, hope to see you guys in the next video. Take care. Thanks. Bye.